Oh, hello. Let's get into some philosophy. And let's start by talking about Plato's dialogues. And I'd like to go through five of them, and we're going to talk about four aspects of each one. And then I'd like to talk about how each of these philosophies are applicable to today. How does that sound? Ooh, nerdy fun. Okay, so the first dialogue, and I highly recommend that for those of you who really want to learn something because you just want it for the sake of learning, I recommend that you download these. They're super easy. Crito, the first one I'm going to do, is just 1.5 pages. They are challenging to read, but I think once we get through it and discuss it, hopefully you can see the value of teaching philosophy. So let's get to it. Like I said, I'm just going to give a very basic, just the philosophy of these philosophies. And you can read them on your own. I would, because this first one with Crito, the first paragraph, you kind of find out that it's just a dialogue between Socrates and a wealthy patron named Crito. Socrates at this point had been imprisoned for teaching philosophy for corrupting the youth because philosophy went against what the government wishes were. So the dialogue kind of goes like this. The question, as I read it, is who should we listen to? Who should we take advice from? And so we're going to do the question. We're going to define what we need to in the question. We're going to come up with examples and then resolution. So again, in Crito, the question is, who should you listen to? And Socrates follows that up with, let's see, the opinions of the wise are good, and the opinions of the unwise are evil. And so I guess we need to define what wise is. And in this dialogue, it's a little bit tricky because the examples kind of tease that out a little bit. When we think of wisdom, I don't know, what do I think about? Not just somebody with experience, and certainly not just some people who are old. There's a lot of old people out there who are unwise, for sure. So I don't think we should listen to people just because they're old. So how do you know if somebody's wise? So the example that Plato brings up is that of a gymnastics coach and fans. And so who are you going to listen to? If you're a gymnast, are you going to listen to your coach, or are you going to listen to your fans? Now, your fans are, of course, going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to say, you're great, that was magnificent, and that might be the masses. And your coach actually might give you advice that could be better, even though it's not as fun to hear, like you didn't do that move correctly. But then that gets a little tricky because can you really trust the coach? How do you know if the coach is really wise? And I think not only historically in Plato's time, but just in recent history, I think about the gymnasts. What was his name? It'll pop into my head. The gymnastics coach who abused Olympic athletes, sexually abused them for years and years and years. So, and hundreds of them. So, are you always going to listen to a coach? Are coaches always wise because they're a coach? So how do you know? And then I like to have students think of other examples. For example, let's say you're a musician. Are you going to listen to your fans? Are you going to listen to somebody who's going to challenge you musically, even if you're the most talented guitar player? I think knowing talented guitar players, they don't want to just hear praise. It feels good, and it's kind of deceiving because it's like, it's nice. But at the same time, to get valued, wise criticism can help us be better people. The other example is, who should we listen to? Let's just take current events. Again, going back to school, are you going to listen to politicians who are going to benefit economically? Or are we going to listen to scientists who might be the few and somehow somewhat silenced? Are you going to listen to the few who know, like some scientists, or are you going to listen to the many who just want things to go back to normal? And so I think Plato, writing this, like 400 BCE, I don't have the dates. Again, the philosophy is what's more important here. So let's go back. The question is, who can you listen to? Who are you going to trust? We got to define the whys, and we're going to use it through examples: gymnastics coaches, musicians, like I said, and even everyday decisions. Are you going to listen to leaders? And I think about, what are their objectives? What are their agendas? Versus a scientist who just wants to give us facts so that we can make a better informed decision. So anyway, this conversation goes on, and I think those are some good examples. If this were a class situation, we'd just spend probably a good 10-15 minutes coming up with more so that it kind of sinks in. And then we talk about living with justice. Like, how do you know what justice is? Is justice just following these laws because they're laws, or are they unjust laws? And it's not an easy question. It's not an easy solution, but it gives us a framework to guide us into something a little bit more positive, instead of just saying, well, this is what I want, really on a primal level, to say, wait a minute, I don't want this, but I'm going to listen to somebody who might know more than myself. And then I think because the masses, and somehow we just want things to be normalized. Back in Plato's day, I think there were some similar social constructs in place. So anyway, to conclude and to have the resolution, and excuse me, I just want to read this. Socrates says, "Then, my friend, we must not regard what the many say of us, but what one man who has understanding of just and unjust will say, and what will truth say? And therefore you begin with error when you suggest we should regard the opinion of the many about just and unjust, good and evil, honorable and dishonorable. Well, someone will say, but the many will kill us." And that's pretty much how that dialogue ends. So if we listen to the masses of the opinions, and I think about watching the news in the morning, and I see opinion polls every single day. What's your opinion about going back to school? What's your opinion about wearing masks? And I really think that's dangerous because you're asking people who are the unwise. I have no idea. I don't know about coronavirus. I've never studied science in that capacity. So I'm going to listen to experts and not somebody who I think is going to profit off of my decisions. So anyway, that's kind of short and sweet and to the point. So we'll move along to another dialogue.